Amen and amen. Hold on one second. All right, turn off my stuff. Okay, so I think one of the things that I'm going to talk about today, very briefly, because it's really a topic for a new topic in a way, but they're all connected, is resiliency. And I'm not going to go deep into it, but I've talked about it previously. Um, when the first one or two webinars that I did, I brought it up, and I want to touch on it again today. Um, but one of the things that, in terms of leadership and being in a spiritual community, and I assume if you're here in some form or fashion, you are in a leadership role. Um, Even if you're a parent, you're in a leadership role, whether you like it or not. Uh, but resiliency is something I'm not sure that we talk about it enough, and I'm not sure that we all really understand it. So, the first thing I want to do is if you could in the chat box, and if you're I'm assuming by now you're kind of familiar with Zoom, but at the bottom of your screen, somewhere at the top, there should be a little button that says chat. If you would, in the chat box, type two predominant feelings that you have had in the last, say, 3 days. Just two words, two feeling words that you've had in the last 3 days, the predominant. Relaxed, frustrated, fatigue. Yeah, well, that's a pretty good. So I'm going to ask one more question, and don't worry, this isn't going to be a therapy meeting. But I do want to ask one more question about when you look at that list, what do you notice? And you can just hop in and just say, what do you notice as you look at what people have typed? Yes, contrast. You can either type it or speak up, either one. See it? Yeah. Yeah, lots of mixed. Um, yeah, all over the map. I was thinking the same thing, Amy. So the reason I start there is that's part of resilience is about a large part of resilience is really our capacity to thrive and to be sustainable. And I just start there because it's developing our emotional intelligence, being able to give voice to how we feel and embrace all of them. You know, every emotion we have is information, and I don't consider feelings good or bad, right or wrong, positive or negative. Some of them feel a little more uplifting than others. Some of them certainly are more life affirming than others, but every single emotion is information. And so I just want you to just hold that as I kind of go through what, the next 45 minutes or so. Um, just to keep it in mind, because we are very focused on task. We are very focused on what's on my to-do list today and what do I have to get done and how do I get it done and do I know how to get it done, and if I don't, do I know who to go to? I don't have anybody to go to. Like, there's just this sort of never-ending supply of questions, which is because we're in this world of innovation and that's not changing anytime soon. And so there is, of course, this whole ocean of emotions. So I just wanted to start there. And part of resiliency is expanding our capacity to hold it all and to move through it without making, without making things right or wrong or good or bad. But certainly we don't want to stay stuck, but being able to name our emotions and help other people name them. So that's just kind of the starting point of resiliency. Resiliency is also, we're going to touch on some sustainability in terms of what we're doing. Again, it's briefly, and in terms of who's our audience. So I'm going to go back to very briefly a change checklist. It was originally I called it a crisis checklist, but at the very beginning, 8 weeks ago or so, when I did the first webinar, I introduced the idea of this checklist to have. So I want to start there. I want to talk about who our audience is, and I'm not going to go back to innovation, and although it will come up again. So resiliency is really something very key and very necessary, and this is something I said in one of the first webinars. It's being able to move through those unpredictable challenges. And it's not just to survive, but to also thrive, which means to grow and have new life in the middle of unpredictability, in the middle of things that are unfavorable, in the middle of things that are challenging or difficult, or, I'm sorry, I didn't sign up for this, right? So raise your hand if you're in ministry and you've said to yourself, I didn't sign up for this. Yeah, I think, yeah, that was a little bit sarcasm, but very true. Most of us, I didn't sign up for this. So what is resiliency and how do I build it? These are just a few things that I just want you to keep in mind as I'm going to, it'll start that, as I move into really talking about who our audience is and who are we, how are we being a church online, and who are we talking to? Are we engaging? Just all these different things. So resiliency is about us building our connections, not just with people that we know, but maybe people we don't know. It's do we have a purpose? Like it could be finding a purpose. It's very likely that 8 weeks ago, I was very clear about what my purpose was. And now 8 weeks later, I'm like, yeah, I'm not sure. Embracing the thoughts that are uplifting, embracing the thoughts that do give us a sense of gratitude, that do give us some peace of mind, seeking help when we need it. And it's not just in unity, but we are notorious, ministers I've noticed are notoriously allergic to asking for help. And so that's part of our ability to not just survive, but to thrive, to grow, to move through challenging times, is to keep returning to these things, especially the purpose. That one really, for me, jumps out in a big way because it's very easy to get moved individually off purpose, but also the church. I said it in the last webinar and several of them about, if your church is not revisiting mission, its purpose, like why we're here, why we're sucking air. I'm not talking vision, mission, core values. I'm not talking mission statement. I'm talking the big old why. What's our cause? Like, why are we here? And we all need to be revisiting that. So the action checklist is just things to. I love when I'm not poking at you, Sharon, but I love when people, because I do the same thing. I put my camera up and take pictures, even though I always say I'll send it to you, but sometimes it just takes me too dang long to get it uploaded. But yeah, so these are just, it's a checklist.
I'm your fan.
Yeah, it's a checklist of things that we, as you move through change, and especially in a crisis, they're just things we need to be paying attention to. I don't mean for it to be, oh my God, something else to do. But they're things that are always in motion. So communications, what are we communicating? How are we communicating? How often? What mechanisms are we using? How are we creating community online? Most of us have created community online. We have church services, we have meditation, we have classes. how's that going? How is it? Am I changing that up? Am I innovating? Am I thinking we're gonna make that kind of go away when the building's open? Do you have a disaster preparedness plan? Most churches do not. Right now is the perfect time to be creating one. Um, a financial inventory, that's one of those that there's always, we need to be looking at. What's the landscape we have right now? What are the bills we have right now? What's our budget need to be? What's plan A, B, C, and D, and how does it, I need to start thinking about holidays now, even though, we usually do, but what is it going to look like, in terms of, if we need to do it online, what resources are we going to need for that? What fundraisers do we have in mind? A map of your organization. Have you literally a map, like you know, um, plain old map, boxes that all connect each other, right? Of what the organization looks like. Has that changed from 8 weeks ago? Hopefully it has, because we've needed different people in different roles with different skill sets. So are we continuing to look at that map? Um, are we continuing to move some of those around? One way to kind of start that, if you're not used to that or haven't done it, is sticky notes. Looking at how should whom how should who lead whom to do what. Again, that's part of that map of organization, of moving it around. Who are we partnering with? Who am I collaborating with today? Who was I collaborating with 8 weeks ago? 16 weeks ago? Who do I need to be collaborating with 16 weeks from now, a year from now, right? They're just, again, I'm not saying all that to like, something else to do, but just to start putting things in the hopper, because we need to be looking 6 months, 12 months, 2 years. The fallout from this is going to be for years. So this is just kind of a general, like a big umbrella checklist for just keeping an organization moving and moving through change. For resiliency, right? Resiliency is how we respond to the challenges, and how we innovate through them, and how we step into the I don't know, and how we do hold a 50,000-mile view, but also down below at a mouse click view, very specific things. So the bulk of today is about who's our audience, and how do we know who our audience is, and since attendance is not really, we don't count attendance anymore. We don't know who's attending. Attendance historically has been, there's someone, usually a usher or a greeter, who is counting people when they walk inside. Couldn't read the last box. Oh, on the checklist. Sorry, Patty. Just remind me. Don't let me leave until I say it again. I want to finish my thought here. Um, so what we're historically used to with church is attendance, counting attendance and counting the money. And we look at it as a Sunday morning kind of thing. You count how many butts there are in the seats. And social media doesn't work that way. If we're doing church online and we're doing classes online, we are hopefully, shifting what we're doing and how we're doing it. So I'm going to be looking at, in terms of our audience, I'm really looking at attendance and really looking at engagement, because that's what really we have to be looking at, is engagement. And so what does that look like? There, Sharon, she's organized. She wrote it down for you, Patty. Looking at engagement and what engagement means, and how are we doing that, and are we doing it, and what can we do to be engaged? So we want to take the numbers, the viewers, right? We're going to look at viewers, and we want to move that to engagers. We want to move from viewers to donors. So the way that we're going to do that is, what I did was, I have taken, let me do this. Let me stop sharing for 1 second, because I need to see everybody. So raise your hand if you are the administrator on your church's Facebook page. Okay. So some of you are not. Okay. So, so if you are not the administrator on your church's Facebook page, yeah, and hopefully you're not the only one. Um, if you are not, then some of this information, it's all good information for you, and it will be information that hopefully you can bring to whoever is the administrator. Um, so it's looking what I'm specifically doing is because most churches they're live streaming in some fashion on Sundays and mostly on Facebook, some to YouTube. But the numbers that I'm going to show you are available to you no matter what social media avenue you're using for the church that you're doing, your church online. You can find out who your audience is, what they're watching, when they're watching, how long they're watching. But really, it's about helping you to um, to look at the numbers and be able to say, okay, this is what needs to change. This is the reality check. This is really what's going on. When we, about a few weeks ago, maybe a month ago, there was lots of information kind of circling around about, attendance was in churches was up by 50, 60% and lots more money coming in. And now the number is like 75% of churches are talking about this growth. And it's a little misleading. Because you have to be able to look at the numbers, like what do the numbers really mean, and so that's what I'm going to start with. Is I'm going to just use Facebook, and I'm using some information from a couple of websites that I'm an administrator for that are churches, so I can just show you some pieces that you really want to be looking at, so that you can move into engagement. So you can really see, quote unquote, what your attendance is, but really encouraging you to stop using the word attendance and start using the word engagers. Who's engaging with us? And I'll define what engagement means in a minute. But again, it's because we're in this huge change, and we're, in constantly innovating. We have to always be looking at what's happening. We can't just be, throwing stuff up on, I'm just using Facebook because if I went into Twitter or Instagram or any others, our minds would implode. So if you have access, if you are an administrator, if you go to the church's page on Facebook, you will see something that looks very much like, and you click on Insights. There's a word at the top that says Insights. If you click on that, you'll see over on the left here, it says Overview. The overview just gives you a bird's eye view of what's happening on that Facebook page. And you can choose to look at it for the last 7 days or the last month or a previous day. But what you're looking at here is the general activity for a page for the last month, last 28 days, but the last month. So I want to point out a couple things. One, very first one that you want to look at is actions. I'm not sharing my screen. Oh, sorry. So here I am talking, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, guys have to speak up sooner. All right, let's try that again. Okay, if you are the, the administrator for your page, then when you go on Facebook and you go to the page, you will see this up at the top. There's this menu that says Insights. If you go to Insights, you go to Overview, you get a general picture of the activity of the page. I am not going to go through every single one, but I am going to point out the ones that you want to be paying attention to, and we're going to go into a couple a little bit deeper, because I'm hoping that from it you will change what you're doing on Facebook so that it's more effective what you're doing. The first one is actions. So this church had one action in the last month. Anyone want to take a guess what action means?
Posting?
Sorry?
Is it posting?
Nope. So an action, good guess. Don't worry, I'm not keeping track of who answers and who doesn't. So an action means that they clicked on either a donate button or they clicked on contact us, but they clicked on a call to action. So that means in the course of a month, this church had one click on a call to action. What that tells me is that there is no call to action. So if you do not have a donate button on your Facebook page, you have that blue button up at the top underneath your cover photo. It can be donate, it can be, send us a note, send us an email. So the catch with that is that if you have a call to action button, you also need to be calling people's attention to it when you post. So you want to look at that. How many people are actually engaging in a call to action? Then here's the page views. So that's how many people went to the page and viewed it. Only 30 likes, 30 additional likes in the last month, which is like one a page. Your reach is how many people saw your page as they go through, that shows up in their stream. They don't go looking for you, but when they come to Facebook and see, you go to Facebook and you see all this stuff, and there you are, you show up as they're scrolling through things. Okay? So I just pointing out a couple things. Now, the videos, there's 64,000 or 6,487, but you'll see it says 3-second video watch. So I'm gonna come back to that one. But this number is really high because this is a church online and they're regularly doing little videos, not just Sunday video, but also some, uplifting, meditation kind of videos or hi, how you doing? Okay. So the other thing that your page will tell you in terms of your audience is it will give you demographic information. So, if some of you already know all this, please, chime in how you use it. But still looking at this menu on the left-hand side, we were looking at overview. Now I've come down to people. And it tells me that 75% of the people that like this page are women, 23% are men. I don't know about the other 2%, because on Facebook there are, believe it or not, when you create a new account on Facebook, there are over 50 different gender definitions that you can choose. But it gives you ages and it gives you, men and women. The other thing that it does is it tells you where these people are located. So it just tells me that of how many people are located in different states, different towns in the same state, even some different countries. So there's 13 people from the UK. And so, or at least that's their language. This over here is the country. So there's a dozen people from Canada. So this people just tells you, and again, even that's the fans, and then there's you can dig even deeper into the people. But the reason I'm pointing out the people is that it gives you information of what you're messaging and how you're messaging, and are you reaching the people that you would like to be reaching, right? It's that age-old tension of, do I want to continue to reach the audience that I have, which is older women, and we already know this in Unity. That's for many churches, that's the bulk of the audience. And do I want to reach a different audience, different demographics? So this tells me right now where people are coming from. So you want to know that, so that when you want to, be changing what you're doing, you can kind of look at what and where. Okay, so the other, I just went back a slide. So when you're looking at this menu remember we went to the page and then we clicked on Insights. And when you look at this menu over here, one of them is Posts, right? Kind of in the middle is the word Posts. When you click on that, you get a list of your posts. what you've posted. And there's a lot of information in here. So I'm only going to touch on a few things that I think are most important in terms of engaging. Okay, in terms of what is it that people, what we need to be paying attention to is what do people want? What are people really looking at? What are they enjoying? Um, it's we it's shifting the energy from what do I think and what is it people are telling me that they're engaging with. So if you look, um, so if I just look down this list, so the first column says type, and that's what type of post was it? Well, this one was a link. This was a picture. Here's another link and another link. Here's a little video camera. Oh, look, there's a lot of reach in that one. This tells me that lots of people saw it. That's what the big orange bar is. These numbers, the blue, tells me blue is how many people clicked into that post, and the pink tells me how many people clicked. You ever watch a video and find yourself clicking the smiley face or the little heart or the grrr, face? Those are all reactions. It also tells me how many. The pink is about reactions, comments, and shares. That is your engagement. When somebody clicks, when they react in one of those little emojis, they type a comment or they share the post, that's what an engagement is. And that's what you want to be paying attention to. And the best way that you can, and that's what you want to be upping. You want to be upping your engagement. Now it comes back to, well, who's taking care of all this? Who's actually, many churches, they just post things, but is there anybody going back and actually looking at what are people looking at? What are they engaging with? And then are we responding to it? Right? So it's not you. It doesn't have to be you. But do I have, right? Now we're going back to that kind of that checklist, communications. I need to be expanding who's doing what and why and how. And so it's going back to the posts that have engagement and engaging further. It's having, when you're doing a Sunday service, having someone moderating the feed, the little chat feed, and posting things, like posting the link to give, like posting the quote that you just said. It requires preparation on our part. If you know in your talk you have a quote, or even not, if the person is even just paying attention and you say something, which I know we all do, we say something fabulous that needs to be repeated, right? Then they put it in there. They respond to, it's okay if people are having a conversation in the chat stream while you're speaking or while there's a song going. It means they're engaged. And so now it comes back to us having to go back and respond to those. That's what we're wanting to up, is the engagement. That's why people come back. Okay, so reach is how many people looked at it. That's what your reach is. All right, let me go to the next one. So what I did is, I'll go 1 second, is I took what you're about to see is I took a link. So this again, come back to the type, is a link. And these are all blurred, that way you can't, this is anonymous, but this tells you what, the information that's in the post itself. So I picked one that was a link to a daily word, and here's what they posted. And it was a daily word. I take comfort in the refuge of spirit. And so when I click on it, when I click on that link or from that post, now I can see now I can dig a little deeper and I can see, okay, what was really going on. So in this case, this was, there was in 7 engagements. That means 7 people in some way reacted to it, commented on it, shared it. It's not much. So I'm not dogging on Daily Word. I'm not dogging on the church. I'm looking at numbers, and it doesn't mean don't post it. It means what am I posting and why are we posting it, right? So if I look here, there's 41 people that it reached, and 6 reacted with comments or shares. 3 people liked it, 1 person loved it, 2 people shared it, 1 person actually clicked on it. So only 1 person clicked on the link. Right? So these are all, it's just information to start us supporting us and streamlining what we're doing, why we're doing it. Again, please hear me. I'm not suggesting not posting Daily Word, but is this the most effective way for reaching who we want to reach? I don't, you'd have to decide for you, but it's starting to.
Kelly, I have a question.
Yeah.
Okay, so you put something up and maybe it's like a meditation or something that you think could be really helpful. And um, then, then another person who has administration comes in and they post, 3 or 4 little quotes on top of that. That gets pushed down.
Right.
Um, so how
Because
should you manage something like that other than to pin it?
well, that's too much posting.
Okay.
There is such a thing as too much posting. Uh, the other piece of it is that if you don't have a social media plan that is specifically created for you guys and your audience, who you want to be engaging and reaching, then you need one. That way, it just that's actually one of the biggest traps we have with social media is there's multiple people that have access and just share stuff, and it's not effective, um, especially now that with what we're in right now and we are really online right now. It's you wouldn't think of it this way. In some ways, if it's Sunday morning, you wouldn't have just anybody willy-nilly getting up and saying, oh, I love this quote from Eckhart Tolle, and just saying it, and then 20 minutes later, you know what, I read this great quote from Mark Twain, and they get up and they say it. It's think that way. It's the same idea. And what happens is now you have multiple voices. You don't have clarity on your why, right? Everything that we do needs to be in service to the why, to our purpose. Um, so, okay, coming back to, did that answer your question, Sharon? Okay, so now I've gone back to, I'm looking at the posts. So now I want to pick a video. So that was that one that I just pulled, had a reach of 41. It is. Thank you, John. That's a perfect way to say it. Competing noise. It is. So again, you've heard me say it a billion times. First place always is identity and mission. Why are we here? And then everything is in service to that. Our content, we have to be creating content, and we need to get better at creating content for social media, especially now. And that's another, everything I do, I always say, and that's another webinar. So I come back to my posts, and I want to look at a video. So this one is going to be, if you click on any of those, so you can see which ones have the little camera, right, would be a video post. So this is this last Sunday. So let's see the activity for this last Sunday. That would have been just yesterday. I make it sound like it was days ago. I know I'm not the only one struggling with time. So here's the part that might get a little, that could feel a little disheartening, but here's the thing about all these numbers is it helps you have a baseline. And it's from a baseline that you start creating your content. You start really getting fine-tuned and clear on what your messaging is and how you're going to do it and when. And one of those places is videos. This video, this was a Sunday talk. What this tells me is that there's the 28 people was the highest number that were watching it live when it was going on. 62 people watched it for at least a minute. 155 10-second views, and 325 3-second views. We tend to look at views like we'll just look at the feed and we see, oh look, we got 450 views. Yes, and how many of them were 3-second or 10-second views? Most of them. And that when people start realizing this, they're like, okay, that's not that many. No, it's not, but that's okay. You want to follow and what you want to pick, if I'm going to follow and I'm going to go with the metrics, is I really like that number. There's 468 people that viewed my video. That's a great number. That's how we get these numbers like, 70% of churches have, grown in attendance. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at how many 1-minute video views were there. 62. That's a more accurate number. A 3-second or a 10-second means they stopped by. It's drive-by church, right? They stopped by, they watched for 3 seconds, they watched for 10 seconds, they kept going. Yes, there may be a person or two in there that gets dropped off and they come back online, the drop off, come back online. But if you're going to track, and this is what's really important about knowing who your audience is, being sustainable online and being resilient, is pick the most conservative number, which is the 1-minute views, and start building on that. So which means, so there's 62 viewers that watched for a minute. When you go back and you watch these, if you've ever watched something that was live, you see this sort of like graph, like, kind of goes up and down and up and down. So you can see where people were engaged. And when you dig deeper into these numbers, I'm playing this balancing game between enough information and too much. But when you dig a little bit more, what you'll see is where people were watching, what they were, where they were dropping off or where they were coming in, or where the average video watch time was about 2 minutes. So where was that? And that's what by following that, and you have to follow that for a while. And that's why this is so much about innovation, because we watch it and we learn from it. Okay, what are they engaging with? It's not about putting the way Sunday was in the past and sticking that all up online. I guarantee you people are going into the kitchen, listening and waiting until they hear what they've come for, whatever that might be. The only way I can know what people have come for is to go into the numbers and look at who's the audience. Where are they watching? What are they watching for? Okay, let me pause there for a second. All right. Big breath. All right. There's a couple more things, a couple more pieces of information, but I want to pause because I threw a lot out yet. Questions, comments, concerns?
Kelly, this is Lori. So we're not using Facebook Live for our church. We're using Zoom.
Okay.
And when I'm tracking my quote attendance, what I'm doing is I'm actually looking to see how many people were logged in for roughly the full session. I mean, if somebody logs in for a minute or 2 or 5, I don't count them.
Right.
But if they're there for 60 minutes or 58 minutes, or even if they're there for 40 minutes, then what I know is that they're staying for the talk and they're checking out after the talk.
Okay.
And so I guess what I'm looking for is strategies on things that I can do differently in that kind of an environment. I've started recently also showing on YouTube Live, but it's just a stream over from my Zoom meeting to YouTube Live.
Right.
And I'm seeing a small, minuscule uptick in viewers on YouTube Live, but it's much harder to say, are they staying for the whole thing, or, it's harder for me to find the information there. And I'm just wondering we've been doing basically our normal service, slightly abbreviated, but pretty much our normal order of service online. And is that the right thing to do? Even in a Zoom meeting, is that the right thing to do? It sounds like it's definitely not the right thing to do in Facebook. And I'm wondering if it is the right thing to do in Zoom.
Well, I guess my question. So, well, first of all, YouTube has analytics, so you can go back and look at the analytics dashboard, and if there's not a large number, of course, you have to hold the numbers loosely. Um, but you can get analytics on YouTube. You might consider live streaming to Facebook and start, still in Zoom, but live stream to Facebook. Um, um, you can also get a third party, use a third party resource like Restream or Switcher Studio or OnStream Live to stream to both. So that you can, and the reason being is that um, Facebook Live will certainly, is it for to build an audience, really.
We do have somebody who goes in, and when I start the link on YouTube Live, they are putting a post in our Facebook page saying we are now streaming live on YouTube. Here's the link. We've had a couple, 1, 2 clicks on that.
Right. I would still probably, so I guess it would be why, so from an innovation, it's experimenting. So really, I would be experimenting. I would stream to Facebook Live and do it for a while, a month, and start collecting the data, start collecting who's watching, right? And from where and for how long and what pieces, because it's going to be, it will tell you generally out in the world what people are looking for. Now, it also is a function of, if what you're doing is what you want to be doing, great. We don't have to live stream somewhere. It would be looking at also in Zoom, if people are turning off their videos, then I don't really know if they're engaged or not. If their video and audio is off. The other thing that that Zoom does offer is they do offer metrics on people. It can track if someone has their video off and they're not there, like there's no, it gives you some numbers of some degree of connection in Zoom. But I think I would I would do the Facebook Live and start moving out and changing up what you're doing, like getting to and experimenting. Doesn't have to be different every single week, but making it a little different every other week.
So speaking of making it a little different, is anybody out there experimenting with different, I don't even want to say order of service. I guess what I'm wondering is maybe we should just start with, opening prayer, here's my talk, let's break out into discussion groups.
People are doing that.
Totally different, totally stuff we would not be doing in a live church session, or maybe not.
People are doing that. I'm seeing a few things, kind of across the board. That's one. Especially when when it's challenging to get the music going well, because it depends on your setup and your hookup, and it depends on the musicians, and there's so many things that go into getting music to be good online, and that's one of those that depends. So for people that don't have, maybe they play one song, and it may not even be a live musician, it could just be a song. They have an opening prayer, there's a song, talk, meditation, break into small groups, or they do that and it's streaming to wherever, Facebook or YouTube, and then we come back to Zoom for coffee hour. There's people that are doing the whole entire church service online, and they are pre-recording it and putting in slides for announcements, and all very production oriented, and there's some doing that. And little hybrids of each of those. Um, and I know a few people, ministers, that are doing it. Okay, this like this time we're going to have small groups on this day. They have special guest musicians coming in. Those that like a Karen Drucker, a Faith Rivera, that have the equipment and have the know-how, to be online. It really is. It's not necessarily a good answer. Um, but it depends on who your audience is and who's the audience you're wanting to reach. Because John, just posted in there's different audiences will go to different platforms, which is correct. And I would, if you can, I would get a third party like a Restream or Switcher Studio and go to both and watch both. And I don't have to stay with it, forever. I can cancel, but I would do it for the metrics. It's really the only way that we can. And it sounds so anti-church and so not heart-like, right? And not, we're so used to being with people and feeling their presence that really I have to look at data. Yes, because they're telling us what they want.
So yeah, I'm sorry, I don't mean to be hogging all the time. I can. What I've started really struggling with just in the last couple of weeks is that I'm not getting the feedback that what I'm doing is of any use. You know? And it's like I'm so used to being in the room with people, and I can tell by the energy in the room if what I'm doing is being effective, and then I can adjust on the fly.
Right.
And I feel like I'm just putting it out there into a blank space and getting nothing back.
Right.
And I think my congregation is getting way more out of this than I am, but I am getting sucked dry.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I'm looking for something that can help me feel like I'm somehow part of a reciprocal flow of energy instead of a one-way flow.
Right. Well, and data, you're a data girl, will give you that. Well, it won't be in the same fashion where I can see people and I can touch them and talk to them, but it will tell me. It's the engagement thing. If I go back into the chat stream and I respond to what people are saying, and in the middle of what I'm doing, tell people, you know what, in the chat stream, answer this for me, and that's also part of the engaging, is we have to ask them to participate. And if we're not used to doing that, it's getting in that habit. So asking them, especially asking for money, but asking the question of, you know what, I've been talking for a couple minutes about blah, blah, blah. I want you to write in the chat box, what does that mean to you? And it doesn't matter what they say in the moment, because later on, you're good, not that I could see it, right? But later on, I'm going to go back and then we're going to respond. So doing ministry, we have to change how we do it. And that means, so if I'm going to do that, if I'm going to engage with who's listening and paying attention, what am I going to stop doing over here? Because I'm not adding another thing to my list, right? And if I'm not the one engaging, then who is it? And maybe we have, and it's a team, right? And maybe every week. So Unity Worldwide Ministries and lots of boards have somebody that they call the keeper of the flame. So have your church have a keeper of the flame, which means that's the person each week who is engaging with the chat stream, who asks the questions in there. If you're the one speaking, ask the questions, get people to start typing into the chat stream. The keeper of the flame is the person that can respond. It doesn't always have to be me, but we have to teach people, right? We have to develop our leaders. Yes, Jennifer, you have your hand up.
Yes. So I just wanted to kind of respond to that, although mine's on a smaller scale. I'm the youth ministry director for our church.
Yep.
And what Kelly just said about scaling back on, if you're going to be engaging people and spending your time in a different way than you have been? What are you going to scale back on? So what we're doing for our youth ministry, for our families, is I am writing a modified lesson plan, simplified, because parents have a lot on their plates right now with kids home and school and just everything. So I'm sending that out via email, so they can get that. And I generally have a lot of links so that they can link to things they can engage their family with, online. I don't have to write it all out for them. So that has cut down a lot on my weekly preparation of the classroom space and all of those things, because now they can just click and get information that before I would have to have prepared in advance. So the trade-off there is I am able now with that time to actually make phone calls and engage with parents on a level that I wasn't doing before on a Sunday morning, where they're just dropping off, picking up. Even during social hour after church, your attention is pulled in so many different directions. And what I have found is I've had to give up a lot of my perfectionistic tendencies and my need to control the way my
Yeah.
classroom looks and what the outcome is of this particular activity that we do.
Yeah.
And by freeing that part up, I'm able to engage on a level with a lot of these families that I've never engaged with them before.
Right. Which is what people have been looking for decades from their spiritual community is the engagement, is that. And John wrote in there, we need to teach them how to participate. Yeah. We know we've
Exactly.
gotten,
I agree with that.
yeah, how we know that church in a box, or four walls, brick and mortar, how to participate. We've mostly got, but now all of that, all bets are off. So I have to, that's part of our resiliency, is innovating, is teaching people how to participate. But I have to learn, that's that element on, of resiliency, is focusing on my purpose. Part of my purpose as ministry is engaging. So how am I engaging? Right? How am I can be asking for, uh, um, put a prayer request in there. So at the very beginning of your service, ask people to type in a prayer request. And then at the end of the service, you can go through, and you don't have to read them all. But even if you just had someone, your keeper of the flame, that's what I'll just call them, even if it's just a first name, at the end of the service, you can say, because that can be texted to you, or you have the keeper of the flame, give them the mic and say, so as we come to a close, we keep Jim and Mary and Francesca and, in our prayers. We don't need the details, right? So it's asking that. And then later, you or whomever, when you go back to the chat stream, you can respond to those prayers. It's more time, but it's a different way to participate and engage with the people that are with you. And what you will see is the numbers, the engaging will go up. Hopefully the number of posts you have will go down, the content and quality will go up, but keeping on purpose, and start looking at where, when you look at, remember, if you go back to, there's that list of all your posts for you can look however long back you want, and start looking at the column that says engagement, and it will tell you what people are looking for and what they're looking at. So let me come back here for a moment. So here, as part of this, if I look at the posts and I just look at what people are looking at, obviously video gets the most engagement. Just typing something in the status doesn't do it. Even photos, 3 times as many people are watching videos, engaging. Look at the engagement. Photos, how many times do we just put up a photo that has oh, I love this saying, and it goes up on the Facebook page? Stop. It's not, it's that, it's just clouded messaging. Instead, take your phone, pull it out for 30 seconds, do a little video message of love, of concern, of, hey, you know what I'm struggling with today, blah, 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 and put it up there. Tell me how you're doing today. Pick a different topic every single day, every 2 days, every 3 days, twice a week. It doesn't, you're asking people to engage with you, right? It's getting them to react, it's getting them to comment, and it's getting them to share it. So you also want to be asking people to share. Share this. I just took a minute and told you how today I'm feeling really grateful that I just, I paused, even though it's raining outside, I paused for a minute and I watched a little story about a woman doing etc. And I feel really calm and really grateful. What are you grateful for today? What simple little thing caught your eye that you're grateful for? Type it in the chat stream. Done. Post it. Now you've asked a question. And then when people respond, you go back and you go, oh my gosh, thank you. That lifted my day even more. But it again comes back to we have to, how should who lead whom to do what? Finally, when you're looking at your numbers in the background, you can see when people are online. If you look at posts and, under the insights, you can see when people, at least this church, when people are online, and at every given time of the day, I can see generally, so at 1 o'clock on this day, there was 259 people were online and sort of scrolling around. So now I get this average of when people are on. So this church, so I was looking at when people were viewing the page and when people were online. And then I went and I looked at, they had about oftentimes three posts a day, and one at 6 a.m., one at 6:15 a.m., and one at 6:45 a.m. And I'm like, why? Instead of, okay, I get one in the morning, so someone sees it when they first come, but then, one at the end or one, but again, it comes back to the numbers. It comes back to who are they? It's a matter of looking at the numbers and digging a little deeper and seeing when they're engaging, what they're engaging with. Excuse me. And then you need to start building on those things, start innovating from there, which means changing what we're doing and experimenting. We have to experiment. Have to. It's 2:02. I'm late. I went over. Questions, comments, concerns? Again, a lot of information thrown at you.
It was very helpful.
And I'm happy to, if you're administrator for your page and you want to take a deeper dive, I'm happy to do that offline for you. Go into more detail. Anything else?
Thank you.
John?
No, I think it was really great. I appreciated all the information.
Oh, you're welcome. Okay. If there's nothing else, have a great day. Fabulous.
Kelly,
Yeah.
Okay, thanks a lot. Bye-bye,
I'm
everybody. Have a great day.
When will you have this recording available?
You know what? I will, as soon as it converts, within a few hours. I have a meeting in 20 minutes, and then I have a council.
All right, great. All right, thanks so much.
Okay.
Hi, Nan. Hi, Patty.
Hi, Cindy.
Hi, my Ann Arbor friend.
Cindy Lou Lou. Look, it's Amy. Hi, Amy.
You got 3 people from Ann Arbor in here.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
Yeah.
Hello, Michigan.
Yep.
Okay. Have a great day.